Everybody wants to be successful. No matter what endeavor they're pursuing, everybody wants to be successful. The hard thing is, one of the key things to become successful is to be somewhat consistent. If you can keep good consistency, you are on the right track to being successful. It's not going to guarantee that you'll be successful in what you're doing, but it's the right move. Consistency builds good habits. Good habits with consistency can build good skill sets. The issue is nobody really wants to be consistent because consistency is quite boring. On a spectrum, on one end you have consistency, and on the other end you have being spontaneous. Now, when you really think about it, someone who's pretty consistent and does the same shit every day compared to someone who's spontaneous and doing whatever jumps in their mind and whatever fun thing that they can think of, they're probably pretty fun person. If we have a line, on one end we have someone who's very consistent, on the other end we have someone who's spontaneous. The person who's consistent and does the same thing every day, even if it's just trying to improve themselves and doing what seems like the right thing, can come off as pretty boring compared to the person who's spontaneous and does whatever they want and says they have free will and will do whatever and pack their bags and go on a trip tomorrow or, start a new thing the next day. What I'm trying to get at is that consistency isn't sexy, it's not dramatic, it's not fun. And the shitty thing is, even though it's the right thing to do, the shitty thing is, even though it's such a big helping when you're trying to chase goals and achieve your dreams, the problem is there's no big I changed my life overnight moment. It's consistency at its rawest form is just showing up again and again and again. And it's easy to see that a lot of people hate that. When I was younger, I used to be the type of person who would get super motivated at night, watch a YouTube video, plan my whole new life, wake up the next day and get crazy productive for like a week, maybe, and then I just end up falling off. And this became a trend. There was tons of things I try to be productive and do that I'd fall off of, like going to the gym or starting to get into reading. It wouldn't stick. And shortly after, I realized that it wasn't discipline or motivation. I had those things. I just wasn't consistent. I didn't have a plan in place, a real good, consistent plan in place. I didn't have a plan for, even though if I was being consistent, what would I do for the days that were booked up and I just couldn't do it that day? Skipping one day would ruin my whole cycle, for example. And after I came to that realization, I started thinking, it's not the work that's hard itself. It's the staying consistency that is hard. But then when I really started to think about it, it's not hard because the tasks being consistent with isn't hard. It's hard because it forces you to sit with yourself with no applause, no instant results. There's no hype man next to you when you're trying to be consistent day in and day out. It's just you and your word. You're your only motivator, your only fan, the only person that's there to see you succeed. And for a while, I believe I was addicted to the beginning phase, the fresh start, the new routine, the version of me that finally will figure it out. I'd tell myself this is it. I'd wake up early, train consistently, eat better, and I'd start moving with purpose. Oh boy, God, watch me move. And for a few weeks, I felt like a different person. But the moment it stopped being exciting, I'd slowly drift. Not all at once, it's just little compromises. Skip today, you're tired. Start again Monday. Skip one day because I was tired, and it'd be a weekend and I'm out doing stuff, so I'd skip a few days and start again on Monday. I'd tell myself, well, I earned a break, I have been working hard. And those little compromises would stack up over time. I'd start letting my walls that I've built when I was trying to stay consistent had slowly started to have cracks in them, and eventually that wall fell down and I wasn't being consistent anymore. And then one day I looked at myself and think, how did I end up back here again? I told myself this wasn't going to happen. And that cycle can mess with you because eventually you stop trusting your own promises. And then there's those times that it's not your own fault. There was a stretch there where I finally felt locked in. Back in high school, I was training 4 days a week, tracking somewhat of what I ate. I mean, I wasn't that great at it, but I was, staying with a consistent diet to eating better, cutting out junk food. I was sleeping better, making sure I was getting a full 7 to 8 hour rest. actually showing up even when I didn't feel like it. I was going to the gym on bad days, and I was going to gym on good days. I was going to gym on days when I should have when I was tempted to make plans to do other things. And I felt genuinely proud of myself. And I wasn't making no flashy progress, but I still felt proud, not because of how I looked, but because I was finally becoming that person I wanted to be, becoming someone who followed through. Oh, I was so excited. And then it happened. Something like was out of my control, and you can argue that maybe I shouldn't have been training as hard as I was, but I wasn't doing anything spectacular or crazy. My training sessions weren't anything overly long. I wasn't overdoing myself by any means. But still, it happened. A random injury. Nothing dramatic, no crazy story behind it, just one awkward landing doing box jumps during a workout. Sharp pain in my knee. I go to the doctor and they're telling me I need to stop training for a while. I remember sitting in the car afterwards with my mother and just staring out the window because it wasn't just about the gym. It felt like proof that every time I get momentum, something takes it away. And that's when it really started to get hard and the battle started. Not physical, but the mental. Because when you lose your routine, the thing that made you feel disciplined, you start questioning everything. I couldn't train the way I wanted to. I couldn't push the way I used to. I couldn't chase progress the same way. And on top of that, I couldn't participate in the sports that I wanted to participate in. And without all that structure that I had worked so hard to build, all those old habits started whispering again. And then you start asking yourself, what's the point now? And you almost fall into like a sort of depression. And I almost listened to the depression. But that's the part people don't talk about. That's where it really challenges you. That's where it really, you need to lock in mentally and just think and just not listen to those thoughts. Consistency itself isn't tested when things are smooth. It's tested when life erupts at you, when the things you can't control happens. And sometimes when those things happen, you can't stay consistent, but there's always ways to work around it. Even if you have to take a day off, you just make sure that you never take, for example, 2 days off in a row. When progress pauses and motivation starts to disappear, and when you start to feel that feeling of being set back, like that injury forced me to face something very uncomfortable. Was I consistent because it felt good, or was I consistent because that's who I decided to be? Because if it was just about progress, then stopping meant failure. But if it was about identity, then realistically I had a choice. I couldn't train my legs, but I could do rehab. There was other parts of my bodies that I could strengthen. I could strengthen what I was allowed to. My arms, my upper body. I could fix on my sleep, make sure I got plenty of rest so that I could get out of this stage of waiting for my knee to get better. I could dial in on my mindset. There could be other goals that I could focus on. But the main point was that I'm still trying to achieve something. Even though it may have been slower or less impressive to myself, but it was still showing up. I was still improving on being a consistent person. And that's when I understood something deeper about consistency. It's not all about the intensity. It's not all about perfect streaks. It's about returning. Like I said earlier, it's about making up for lost time. It's, no one's consistent and they're perfect right to the fucking minute. There's going to be days where you have things going on and you're just not going to be able to you're just not going to get tasks that you want to get done that day. And you have to be able to work around it and not feel like it's the end of the world because you didn't do it that day. So again, it's all about returning over and over, even after setbacks and even after injuries, no matter how much it might disappoint yourself. And I want to bring this into a little bit more perspective. Something I've been trying to do a lot recently in my spare time when I have it is read. And I've kind of dived into this whole reading the self-improvement books. The one I want to talk about, for example, the ones I've been reading recently are the 48 Laws of Power, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and Atomic Habits. Particularly in Atomic Habits, there's this concept James Clear talks about. He talks about how habits shape your identity, and neuroscience supports it. Repeated actions strengthen neural pathways Repeated actions strengthen your neural pathways. What you consistently do literally rewires your brain. But then what people don't really discuss too much about is that setbacks are part of that wiring too. When you come back after something knocks you down, you build a different kind of mental strength. Not physical at all, it's internal. You build this resilience. You build a self-trust, because self-trust isn't built when everything goes perfect. It's just one of those things you have to fail to really understand and for your body to develop this understanding of it. It's built when things go wrong and you don't abandon yourself. And then eventually, when my injury healed, when I got back into full training and being physically active, I wasn't chasing quick results anymore. I had nothing to prove. I just showed up and I wanted to stay consistent. And ironically, that's when real progress started. Not just in my body, but in my mind. I stopped seeing consistency as this rigid, perfect streak and started seeing it as a loyalty to myself. Some days that looks intense, some days it looks like doing the bare minimum just to keep the habit alive. But it's never quitting. And I want to go back on that, doing the bare minimum. That's okay. And what consistency looks like will change as we grow and develop different phases of our lives. Now that I live out with a partner, I know being consistent with the habits that I have can be very hard some days because we're very different people and we live together. So trying to do everything that I like to do can conflict with other people, and that's okay. So sometimes when we have plans and she may plan to go do something else and I may plan to go do something else, I'll sacrifice a day so that we can go do her thing, and sometimes she'll sacrifice a day so that she can go and do my thing with me. It's all about finding a balance, but it first starts with building that self-trust and that love for an understanding of what consistency truly is. And consistency at its truest form is just never quitting on yourself and having full trust that you will keep trying. Yes, consistency is lonely, it's quiet, and it can be boring. It won't always reward you immediately, but it slowly transforms you into someone who doesn't run when things get hard, and someone who believes in the progress that they make will soon show results. Because even if you get hurt, even if you fall behind, even if life interrupts you, you'll return. And when you truly understand that and you know and believe in yourself that you will, that is powerful. If you struggle with consistency, leave a comment down below. I'd love to discuss about it and what you're trying to work out through and what's your thoughts on it and what you're doing to try to stay consistent or what's a goal you're trying to reach. I want to build a community where everyone can talk about the similar issues and the similar progress we're trying to make. We're all here for the same reason, right? Thanks for watching.